the last episode, I transmigrated into a fairy tale as the wicked queen, Snow White's stepmother. But instead of being jealous of her beauty, I became her biggest fangirl, pestering the magic mirror every single day for HD, uncensored photos and videos of her. Caught off guard by my refusal to follow the script, the magic mirror, the voice of the traditional fairy tale world, is constantly on the verge of a mental breakdown. When the girls in these stories, the princesses, the mermaids, Cinderella, and even the villainesses, stop viewing marrying a prince as life's ultimate prize, and quit clawing at each other over men, they all discover one thing: building a career and being true to yourself is far more rewarding than depending on a man. Everyone has the right to choose the life they truly want. I'm all set. Let's dive back into the story. A few days passed, and I received a letter from the Little Mermaid. She wrote, "I have decided to become the greatest singer of this century. My queen, I am deeply grateful for your help. If not for you, I might have walked straight into the traps set by the sea witch and the prince, eventually ending up as nothing but white sea foam. Of course, I will still pursue a beautiful love, but this time, I will learn to love myself first." The magic mirror on the wall chimed in with a snide, mocking tone. "My dear queen, do you see that? All your talk was for nothing. In the end, the Little Mermaid still wants to pursue beautiful love after all." I looked at the mirror in disbelief. Why shouldn't she pursue love? Love has always been a wonderful, essential spice to a fulfilling life. Morin, then why did you stop Snow White from finding hers? The mirror gritted out, teeth literally clenching in fury. I curled my lip in a dismissive retort. "Stop talking out of your ass. I did no such thing. All I did was ask you for a few more photos. Are you telling me that simply looking at pictures could make a princess lose interest in marriage? Why aren't you jealous of her beauty?" The mirror shrieked, helpless and enraged. "She is so young, while you are already so old." I delivered a sharp slap that sent stars dancing across its glass surface. "Say one more word about my age," I snarled, "and I'll smash you into a million pieces." The mirror didn't know when to quit. It grew excited, as if it had finally sniffed out my weakness. "Just admit it," it hissed. "You're driven mad with envy. Look at all those young girls. If only they were gone, you would once again be the fairest woman in the kingdom." I was genuinely bewildered. Why are you so obsessed with the idea that women only exist to envy one another? Why do we have to compete over looks anyway? It's not like men spend their days in a cutthroat race to see who's the most handsome. The mirror remained unconvinced, dismissing my words. "Isn't that just how the female mind works? You all want to suppress each other to secure better resources." I stopped arguing and simply let out a sigh, thinking to myself, secure what resources? Exactly. The privilege of marrying some old, ugly fool. When you have wealth and power, who needs a man? Though of course, with wealth and power, you can have anything you want, men included. Sometimes, I ponder the logic of this world. It seems to lack any real reason, existing solely to serve the prince. Whether it's a commoner, a princess, or a mermaid from the deep sea, everyone's ultimate goal is to marry the prince and become his wife. Just as the mirror tempts the queen, there are countless such seductions lurking in hidden corners. They have established endless rules and regulations for women, corralling them like livestock, tossing them a few crumbs of favor, and then watching these beautiful girls fight tooth and nail for those pathetic scraps. As Snow White said, a princess shouldn't be a mere trophy for a victor. She is just as capable of picking up a sword to move mountains and part the seas. At the end of the day, who are these fairy tales actually for? The plot adapts to the choices princesses make, but these shifts always inevitably lead back to a beautiful girl crossing paths with a prince. And the mirror works tirelessly to facilitate this. It makes me suspect that the prince and the mirror share some dark, unspeakable secret. After all, you can't tell me the mirror is just head over heels for his confidence, can you? Sure enough, the prince launched a grand kingdom-wide search for the owner of the crystal slipper. Even without a single clue provided by anyone, he managed to find Cinderella's home. Clutching the slipper, he asked impatiently, "Bring your daughters out to try this on. Whoever fits the shoe shall be my princess." Cinderella's stepmother politely declined. "None of my daughters are home, your highness, so it certainly couldn't be any of them." The prince gave a contemptuous smirk. "Impossible. You're just jealous, aren't you? taking a deep breath to maintain the basic decorum of a duchess. The stepmother replied, "Your noble highness, would you mind not acting like a lunatic in my house?" The prince let out a cold laugh, attempting a wicked and charming look. "And what about your third daughter? Hiding her is useless. Cinderella will not be bullied by you any longer." Cinderella and I were actually hiding behind the door, witnessing the entire farce. Her eyes widened in shock as she whispered to me, "How does he know my name?" The prince caught our whispering and strode forward, flinging the small door open. With a smirk of immense self-satisfaction still plastered on his face, he chuckled. "You thought I wouldn't find out." But the moment our eyes met, his face went pale with horror. "How old are you?" "You again. Why is it always you?" I stood up, shielding Cinderella behind me. "Why shouldn't it be me? Who did you expect? With that look of yours like a wild boar that's somehow gained human form, you actually think you're worthy of Cinderella?" The prince tried to lunge at me, but the servants quickly restrained him. Cinderella's stepmother shook her head in disapproval. "You are being incredibly rude, Your Highness," she said to the prince. The prince pointed a trembling finger at the two of us, the stepmother. "Alliance. Is jealousy the only thing women are capable of? What do you gain by keeping me from Cinderella? I will make you pay for this." All I could say was, "Well, good luck with that." The prince then began screaming Cinderella's name at the top of his lungs. Behind me, Cinderella could no longer bear it. She stepped past me and walked out. The moment the prince saw her, his face lit up like a blooming trumpet flower. "Cinderella, I've come to take you away. Come back to my castle with me." Cinderella furrowed her brow, her lips parting slightly as she asked, "Are you an idiot?" The prince looked devastated, but being a genuine fool, he couldn't comprehend why she refused to go. "Don't be afraid," he urged. "With my protection, your stepmother will never dare to hurt you again." Cinderella looked utterly perplexed. "Why would my mother ever hurt me? The bond I share with her is something you could never understand." The prince grew desperate. "You simpleton, haven't you been forced to clean and scrub all day, serving not only your stepmother but your two sisters as well? Come with me. You will become the queen. My family has servants. Why on earth would I be doing the cleaning?" Cinderella grew more furious as she spoke, her gaze turning cold and hostile toward the prince. "And why are you holding the crystal slippers that my mother gave me?" Suddenly, a realization dawned on her. "I see now. You are nothing but a shameful thief who specializes in harassing young women. Did you honestly think that just because you have my shoe, I would marry you? Have you lost your mind? Your character is truly beneath contempt." The prince was unceremoniously kicked out by an infuriated Cinderella, vanishing along with his carriage at the end of the narrow path. Cinderella then clung to her stepmother and wept, looking nothing like the fierce heroine who had just unleashed her fury. Who would ever want to marry a prince? "I want to stay by your side forever, mother." The scene was so harmonious that even my presence there started to feel a bit out of place. I could sense the prince's desperation, a frantic urgency, mirroring that of the mirror on my wall. He was desperate to bring a princess back to his castle. Thus, upon returning to his own kingdom, he made a new proclamation. "I shall find the true princess. Only a princess of genuine blood is worthy of becoming my wife." I knew he had set his sights on the princess in the pea, but unfortunately, that plan was dead on arrival. Before she could even show up, the prince had already been beaten black and blue by a crowd of furious princesses. As more of them broke free from the script's control, they began to question the very logic of their world. "Why should I follow these ridiculous rules?" they demanded. "Why must I marry that idiotic prince? He isn't even worthy of me." The princesses had moved beyond mere rebellion. They were now questioning whether the prince was even necessary at all. The mirror on the wall roared in a fit of rage. "What is a princess even worth if she isn't acknowledged by a prince? If she's not a princess, then what is she?" "Your daddy," I snapped back. The mirror was so stunned by my retort that it didn't dare utter another word. The prince still hadn't given up on his quest. He hopped back into his carriage to seek out Rapunzel, but he's likely in for another disappointment. 3 years ago, Rapunzel and her foster mother had already abandoned the high tower. They are currently traveling the world promoting hair care. The foster mother wrote to me, "We must teach women to cherish their own hair." I was originally quite reluctant to face the outside world, but Rapunzel has grown up. and I cannot keep her in that tower forever. You were right, hiding doesn't solve anything. Now, I am taking her to see the world. Forget the Princey van. I have no idea where those two have wandered off to by now. While the prince spent his days fruitlessly searching the world for a princess, Snow White ascended the throne as the new queen. She now cast an ambitious, predatory eye toward the neighboring kingdom, ready to strike at any moment. The mirror no longer dares to pester me with that idiotic question, who is the most beautiful woman in the land? Because Snow White has built incredible muscle. She looks like the kind of powerhouse who could take down 7 dwarfs with a single punch. After becoming queen, she launched a series of radical reforms. Submissiveness and beauty were no longer to be the defining traits of women. Instead, she encouraged her subjects to face their true selves. Under her leadership, more and more girls stepped out of their homes, abandoning the old logic of the past to seek out a vast and limitless world. The mirror was utterly baffled. Why are these women gathered together without a hint of jealousy or spite? Shouldn't they be willing to sacrifice everything for the sake of love? I found its confusion equally baffling. Why should we be fighting one another? In the past, we fought because resources were so scarce that everyone was merely clawing to survive. But in this world, there are so many choices, so many opportunities. As long as we abandon those stifling dogmas of the past and bravely step out of our cages, there is absolutely no need to lose ourselves for the sake of love. The mirror grew increasingly withered and lifeless. It began to plead with me. I beg of you, just let the princess and the prince be together. Even if they marry him, it's not like it would do them any harm, right? I leaned in and asked in a low, steady voice, why are you so obsessed with them marrying a prince? Tell me the real reason behind this, and I might just help you. The mirror remained silent, its mouth sealed tight. But even without its words, I had already guessed the reason. A princess can thrive without marrying a prince, but a prince needs a princess. It is a zero-sum fate. The smooth and effortless lives of princes are built entirely upon the sacrifice of a princess's will. I have long questioned the validity of this world, a place where everyone moves like clockwork to serve a prince. Beautiful princesses are expected to be little more than vessels of kindness and decorum, waiting patiently for a prince to rescue them from the flames. Aside from them, women are cast into 2 rigid molds: the wicked antagonist like myself, driven by irrational jealousy to persecute the heroine, or the selfless helper, faceless beings whose only purpose is to nudge the princess toward her prince. In these fairy tales, women are only allowed to be either mad or waiting to be saved. It's utterly farcical. Everyone seems to be a mere symbol of happiness, and the story is forced to an abrupt end at the wedding altar. But real life isn't living happily ever after in a castle. That is nothing but a grand illusion. After all, every queen was once a beautiful princess who married for love. I've always wondered why the king remains invisible, and why the castle is only ever haunted by a mad queen. Ultimately, it's because they were trapped within a pre-programmed script, blinded to any other choice. So, I showed them the world outside the code. Does a princess who wields her own sword still need a prince's validation? No, she only needs her own. The prince finally returned, defeated and dejected, only to find that someone else was sitting on his throne. The once fragile princess had seized control of his kingdom. He attempted to reclaim his power, but was driven out by his own furious subjects. When you were in charge, we couldn't even afford a single crust of bread. The people cried. We have no use for kings or princes. All we need is our noble and brilliant queen. Standing at the city gates, Snow White and I watched the prince's desolate departure. He stopped everyone he met, pleading, would you like to be a princess? It's simple, just obey me and follow me back to my castle. People whispered that he had gone mad after losing his throne, but he wasn't mad. He was simply searching, until the very last moment, for one more unfortunate soul to sacrifice themselves for him. By the same shore where I first encountered the Little Mermaid, I crossed paths with the prince once more. This time, he looked even more haggard and disheveled. He turned to me, trembling with rage. Why do you always stand in my way? I could have married a proper princess and lived a beautiful, happy life. It's all your fault for filling their heads with such wild, rebellious ideas. I gave a small, mocking laugh. What exactly do you mean by a proper princess? Is Is a princess who becomes a queen not proper enough? Is a princess on a world tour not proper enough? Is a princess who becomes a chief designer not proper enough? They were always proper princesses. You are the only one here who is trash and unfit air, a defective product that should have been weeded out long ago. Without the sacrifice of others, you are nothing. You've lost your throne, and more importantly, you've lost the trust of your people. They thrive without you, but you are a hollow shell. Snow White stood behind me, her voice cutting like a blade. Mother, why waste your breath on him? You are far too kind. I've already finished interrogating that mirror. As long as we get rid of this wretched prince, we can finally break these chains for good. The prince stumbled back a few steps, his face pale with terror as he looked for a way to escape. He raised his only rapier, his voice trembling as he blustered. What do you think two women can possibly do to me? You have betrayed the very virtues of womanhood. Go back to where you belong. Do not dare to crave things that were never meant for you. But the prince was no longer a match for Snow White. With a flick of her wrist, she raised her long sword and effortlessly disarmed him, sending his rapier flying. Finally, the prince was struck down into the sea. Even as he fell, he let out a frantic, delusional laugh. The little mermaid will save me. A princess will always come for me. The kind little mermaid princesses gathered in a circle around the drowning prince. One of them remarked dryly, "He actually fell in. It looks like little sister won the bet." With sighs of disappointment, they turned and swam away. The prince's eyes bulged as he swallowed gulp after gulp of seawater. He exhaled one last string of bubbles, vanishing forever into the lightless depths of the ocean. His mind filled with an eternal, unsolvable confusion. Upon my return to the castle, the magic mirror shattered, crumbling into a fine powder. Cinderella's stepmother told me that she too had a talking mirror at home, and it had spontaneously splintered into pieces. I realized then that many mirrors must have shattered all at once across the land. From the very moment the first princess began to contemplate the true value of her own life, the fate of every prince and every magic mirror was already sealed. From that day forward, the script of the fairy tale world was rewritten forever. Once upon a time, there was a princess named Snow White. She was exceptionally brilliant and kind. And after defeating a wicked prince, she rose to become the most powerful queen in history. And thereafter, Snow White and her stepmother lived happily ever after in their castle. Why is it only Snow White? Cinderella asked, looking at the ending of the book with a puzzled expression. I too am living very happily with my mother. Cinderella's stepmother gently patted her shoulder. Compared to cold, static words on a page, the beautiful clothes you've created carry far more meaning as a legacy, don't you think? Cinderella beamed with joy. All right then, mother. You're always right.